Paul Hitchcock, and the founder and president of Giant Jaxx Media. This is an episode of Giant TV, and one I'm very excited about. It's about AI. We all know AI has exploded, and I have two great guests here. I have Jim Porcarelli, who is a Vistage chair, and Eric Langley, who has his own AI consulting firm advising businesses across the country and is a Vistage speaker. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Well, yeah. And Jim, let's jump into you because you're doing some amazing things there, building your groups. Tell us about what you're doing, people you're working with, and where your focus is right now.
So it's a very interesting time to be able to be working with leaders, the sort of the science of industry. I work with CEOs, founders, presidents of companies, mostly in the sort of mid-market levels, 25 to $400 million a year businesses, some a little bigger, some a little smaller, who the unique thing about my group is that, one, these are all leaders who have pivoted in their careers. So they haven't only done this in the past, but they've done many different things and have morphed and have had some positive and some negative exits. And also these are companies that are not necessarily the largest or the smallest in their field, but they're very dynamic. They are doing things different than the norm. So that's what differentiates us. And we've been working with the whole area of uncertainty these days. I think the biggest thing on CEOs' minds today is there's less predictability than ever before. There are more options than ever before. We're at a time when we're endeavoring to embrace the chaos that confronts us, but we're sometimes nervous about taking some of the steps that intellectually we think might be the right idea, but emotionally it isn't. So it's this sort of mix of emotion and intellectual while we balance our personal and professional development.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely. And Jim, in your groups, is the topic of AI coming up, and how are they trying to figure it out? You know, the folks you're connected with, or have they already are they in it deep?
No, we have all the answers.
A chip on the shoulder, a little one.
Chip on the shoulder. Yeah, no, I think you've identified it. It does and it doesn't. It's interesting. AI for AI's sake does not come up because these are all groups that, number one, this is a group that, number one, may not completely understand it, but recognizes that it is here. It is an option. It is something that requires not just investigation, but an understanding of where to start with it, how to evolve with it, and then trying to be a little prescient on how can I use it to solve my future problems. It's really that kind of conversation. And I think, we have some very tech savvy folks who, understand the integral machinations of it. Yep. And then we have people like me who use it and are delighted to have it because, one, it's a quicker way to correspond in ways that sometimes we weren't able to catch up. Two, sometimes they say it better and are more articulate than we are. Three, for someone like myself, I kind of consider myself an editor. So I love it when AI provides me with a thought, a paragraph or more that I can then edit because it's already taken me to the second step and not the first step, which is creation.
Yeah, it's a time saver for sure. And Eric, as we jump over to you on AI, what should we know? What are business owners focused on? What are the hot buttons?
Yeah, exactly. And I was just reading a McKinsey report that just came out ago on their survey of executives and what they're finding, and they basically divided the world of CEOs and business executives into two: AI leaders and AI laggards. And really, I think the biggest thing that business owners need to know is that there's a big risk of falling behind if you don't get up and get some strategy going. They literally use the term, if you're just developing your strategy, you're almost already too late. And that to me is stunning at this point. It's only been around, for a year since ChatGPT came out, but it is moving that fast. And, as Jim said, it is somewhat chaotic, but you can make you can make sense out of that chaos. It is possible to have a plan and to whittle down and get manageable chunks of knowledge that are actionable.
And so, Eric, how do you do that when you're first, approaching businesses with your own practice? Is what is the sort of the entry point you get them focused on with AI?
Yeah, I think there's really, three main things, and that's when the conversation is starting, is to come to a point about what is the response going to be to AI. What is the leader's response going to be? And that actually takes a little while. It doesn't, because there's a lot of uncertainty, as Jim said. So you have to get to that point. And because AI has this exponential, thing that's happening right now, and the curve is moving, you then have to use exponential thinking. And we're not used to doing that. I mean, we use incremental thinking for the most part, and that gives us that nice linear line, but we aren't in that world right now. So we have to really expand our thinking and kind of get on the wave, if you will. It's a tsunami that's in my background, and try to ride that. We don't want to be under it over here in the piece where you're getting pummeled, and you don't want to be back over there where you miss the wave. So it's finding that sweet spot, right?
Yeah, for sure. And are all industries embracing AI, Eric? You find it's across the board, or at least wondering what they can do with it?
Yeah, I mean, all industries are going to embrace AI. It's like it's going to be ubiquitous. Nobody doesn't have the internet in their company these days, right? It came out in 95, 30 years later, everybody has the internet. It's there's no more social marketing. It's just marketing, which is what they said 15 years ago. We're just going to have marketing. So 2 years from now, 5 years from now, because the change is fast, we just have AI. Like, we use it, it's part of our business, it augments our people, it helps us build products, it helps us with our processes. People are doing work that's meaningful now instead of mundane, and that's a big difference. It won't necessarily take any people to do that, but it will be meaningful work.
Yeah, and with Jim, which gets me over to you, is are you finding with the folks you're working with that there's a champion of AI at the company? Is it the owner that's the one that's spearheading things typically?
It depends on the company. It's both. I mean, clearly, if the CEO or founder is not the champion of it, they are making certain that there is a champion in the organization that is endeavoring to bring everyone up to speed. I think most people recognize. I think everybody in my group recognizes that while they don't know how to corral it at the moment, that there are people. But just like, I'm not a digital native. I grew up at a time where digital meant 10 fingers and 8 fingers and 2 thumbs. But the reality of it is I think everybody knows that now. It is the next thing. It's already there. So we don't look at it as coming. We look at it as, I mean, you said it best, that it's really endeavoring to catch up. Eric mentioned that if you don't have a strategy, you're already behind. I think the nervousness with most people, it's less about are you a champion of it, and more about, for most people, it's about how do I make sure that I have an appropriate strategy that uses it in the best way, but more importantly, to start thinking about what it could mean to me as we're going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Eric, it's not about AI replacing people. Isn't that a fair statement?
Yeah, for sure. Because if you look at an organization, if you look at just like the Pareto principle, 20% of their work is creating 80% of their productivity. And typically that work is high touch work that is not replaceable by an AI. But that doesn't mean that there isn't things that they do that they can automate. And then really what the word that you use there is augmentation. So like Jim mentioned, you write that letter, he got a start. A lot of people, I personally like to start with what I want to say, and then it writes it in a proper way. But you can do it either way. Mm-hmm. And of course, you get ideas and then go from there. And the beautiful thing about this learning journey that we're all on, the AI is learning and we're learning. So the AI is learning from us, what is your tone? What is your voice? And it learns that over time. And it makes a powerful combination when you have two things that come together synergistically. This would be classic synergy. You're better, the AI is no good on its own, right? It's almost you have to have somebody with creative thought processes and kicks it off. So when I write something with AI, I consider myself to have written it because I am the one that is getting the information out of it. It isn't that easy sometimes.
Yeah, and it seems
Well,
like
I think too,
oh,
I
go
think
ahead.
that,
I'm
I
sorry.
think if I can interject, sorry for interrupting, but I think the great part about it is that it's kind of nice to be the check and balance for somebody that's producing the day-to-day, so to speak. So to your point, you can go in and check it for not just accuracy, but do you want to soften it more because of this particular audience, or do you want to toughen it because of that audience?
Yeah, your tone. Then AI is very good at getting tone because AI can recognize, or what we would call in the AI business, you'd call that sentiment analysis. So AI can recognize the sentiment that you are saying in the email oftentimes better than we can because it just gets it right away. And it's like I get summaries on my incoming emails and it says, well, John appears to be happy about such and such and wants to meet. And so it already knows, where he's at. So that's amazing.
Interesting. Yeah. And I feel like from my own experience and others I've talked to that an efficient way to embrace AI at your company is to identify a channel, a task or something it can help with, get that one thing going and dive in, learn it, and then you can see more broadly how it might impact your organization. But Eric, you and I talked about, and I mentioned this before, of rolling out a new business with the messaging and clicking on links to fill out forms and generate proposals. I'm involved in that, and it's helping me understand, okay, now I can see what's going on. So is that a good way to put it? Identify one thing and then you can go from there?
I mean, yeah, you've got the low-hanging fruit that will generally show up. So in my levels discovery, you have like a very high level of discovery, and then second tier, and then third tier. You're usually going to see your low-hanging fruit in that, high level or certainly by the second level. And then when you get into your long-term strategic planning and objectives, those are more complex, initiatives to implement, but they may have a bigger impact on the company. And that's, so you have that 2 tiers, you get something going right away, maybe 1 or 2 things. And then you got 4 or 5, like these are strategic. This is going to get us where we want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jim, as we get hit a ceiling here on time, I want to just cover what you're building there. You've got a great group of people. Who are you looking for now? What industry groups do you want to fill up your scenario there with?
Well, the nature of what I do has a certain attrition to it. So several people who have been with the group for 3 years are now matriculating out for all the right reasons in most cases. But so I'd like to replace the real estate developer, because that's such it's a moment in time where that business sort of affects what's happening and is giving counsel to other categories. I would love to have sort of general practice law, a partner of a large law firm. I would love to have somebody in government, somebody who somehow is connected in the government phases of life. And then the other area that we're looking intently at augmenting is the non-for-profit, because we think the non-for-profit world holds all kinds of opportunities, and more they are businesses. And so that's where we've been heavily concentrating. And just one more thing, I have 2 groups. So I also have a group that report to the CEOs. And so I'm also looking for industries where there's a strong executive support team required of that particular category, because I would like to continue fostering that group as well.
Yeah, love it. Well, for all of you listening, please get connected to these gentlemen. Their contact information is around this video, wherever you're watching, as we stream this live in a lot of different places. Thank you both for being here. Great topic. And thanks everybody for listening.
Great. My pleasure. Nice to see you all.
Thank you, Paul.